Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. And in classic style, right as I'm about to start recording, 5 dogs in the way. At least. That's got to be a new record, basically. But, well, they seem relatively calm, and they're with their 3 shared owners. There you go, I guess they all just congregate here on this particular path. Which, okay, fair enough. I guess that's one way you can do it. So yeah, it's a bit later in the day. It's not as warm as it has been because, yeah, we got back and suddenly, there's the sun. Oh, look, a sick dog right in front. Right, there you go. You can continue to mark your territory. Don't want to disturb you. That's actually what it was doing. Anyway, what was I saying? So, yeah, this was quite an interesting first full week to be back, honestly. Because, yeah, on one hand, I've been able to actually relax for a bit, and on the other hand, it's been a very interesting time. I'll say that much because, at least, obviously the first thing to really address is the fact that, a new Mutant Girl episode came out, as was pointed out to me for the first time in 2 years. Never letting that happen again. But there you go. It's continued, and I managed to put that together while I was on bus rides in Peru, actually. Because what happened was one of my friends asked me to carry his book in my bag, so I couldn't fit my book at the same time. But I had my laptop in there, which was thinner, and I was like, well, you know what? Let's finally put these pieces together. As was pointed out, there was actually one scene that was missing, not because I decided it wasn't good, it was because I just didn't have the footage for it. I'm not sure if it was because it wasn't recorded or something. But yeah, we're looking into that. It's not that the episode was, bare without it or anything, it was just like one particular end part of a scene that you'll see, hopefully not in the year 2027, as if that trend is not continuing, I assure you. That being said, right now, as promised, on my list of gacha projects, we have got down to weather pops. So I know there are a few people who like to ask me periodically about how that one's going, so to those people I shall say, not exactly too well. I went into a bit of detail about this on stream, but just to clarify what's going on with weather pops, it's an interesting situation because I tried to salvage as much of the original script and vision as possible. I only made a few changes, like one person says like one line rather than another, because I thought, well, there's 6 characters, I got to introduce them in different times, and also because a lot of them were just so bitter that it was just not fun to write for all of them in that way. Don't get me wrong, the contrast in personalities is definitely something to maintain. It's just, there wasn't enough contrast, basically. And yeah, having reluctant people joining a pop squad is absolutely what the franchise has been clamoring for, hasn't it? So yeah, basically that was the first thing. Second thing is I actually messed up preparing the second scene. The first scene's all done, by the way, but the second scene is where I kind of dropped the ball a little bit in terms of there's like the structure of them, the importing of props that I wanted to do, basically, because the way that it was originally structured, it made the most sense to do it that way. So yeah, basically I had to reset a few things, and again, much like the script, I'm trying to salvage as much as I possibly could from there. It's mostly the extras that I have to sort out. But yeah, we'll see how that turns out. So yeah, in a bit of a situation right now, but you know, it's one I can easily dig myself out of. I think I also said I might possibly split the first couple of episodes, but not the first couple of episodes, the first one episode into a couple of episodes. Still not sure about that one, but given that I want to do a bit more Mutant Girl stuff, at least you know, this month that I'm, you know, still able to, and probably next actually, because usually the courses start in October. Yeah, gotta make sure that's gotta make sure that that's dealt with in some quick fashion that doesn't feel incredibly unsatisfying. So if it feels like it's not a fulfilling video, I won't split it, but you know how these things go. Especially with Pops episodes, which tend to be very short. Well, I mean, I say tend to be, they used to be, really. They're getting longer now from everyone involved, you know. Eli, Johnny, Tamsin, particularly Johnny, actually. You know, he's really pulling out the stops to make sure that he has a beginning, middle, and end in his videos now, and that's, you know, fantastic. Speaking of Eli, actually, well, another thing that happened this week is we got to the end of Jazz Pops, which I was originally going to do right before I went to Peru as like a, you know, closing of that chapter going to the next one, but the timing of it didn't really allow for that to happen. And also because I wanted Eli to be there for the last episode. I didn't actually realize that season 4 concluded about a month and a half before the first review came out of Jazz Pops. So yeah, in terms of how tied Gut Review is to the franchise now, it may well have potentially played a part in making sure that Eli didn't distance herself at the time from the from fandom content. That being said, it's interesting that Eli said that she was planning to do that in the first place, because it feels like, you know, the love and affection that she has for Super Pops in general just seemed to be, you know, too strong to repress that. Although, that's what I said on stream. I have thought it through since then, actually, and I have reconsidered a little bit. And my reconsideration has led me to think, you know, in terms of how a lot of people stay in fandoms, actually, a lot of them, when there's an active community around something, it's where they feel, you know, they're most passionate a lot of the time. One thing I can say that, you know, spurred me on to continue My Street 5 years later when I started it was, well, I mean, the original idea behind it was that I wanted to revitalize even just a mere fraction of the old AFMAO fan base, basically, that were, you know, from what I like to call now the middle era of AFMAO, you know, the roleplay ones specifically, that of course they are now making some form of return to, and have been working on stuff, but as of the time of 5 years later, that was not the case. And it was also partly because, like, you know, the breakup that I had recently, or even, like, not even the breakup, because that happened a little bit later, actually, the falling out of the relationship that I was in at the time, that was somewhat tied to AFMAO as a theme. As that fizzled out, I also couldn't bring myself to watch a lot of AFMAO content. So by the time that the modern era started up, I was already out of the loop, so to speak. So it was a way to get me back in the loop, as well as revitalizing the fandom. But the revitalization of the fandom, at least from like that corner, people interacting with me about it, that was, you know, instrumental, to be honest. Because yeah, you know, there's some things that you can very quickly abandon if you have no one to share them with. And I'm wondering if that's what happens to Eli in terms of the Pops content. Again, not just from Gacha Review, but more so from just, you know, the general franchise to begin with. Because if people don't remember what happened, the franchise was started because on one of the Jazz Pops episodes, Johnny left a comment asking if he could connect or make a series connected to Jazz Pops, and Eli approved. And Eli has told me that there were a few people who made Pops fan content around the same time as her when she started, and most of their stuff is either deleted or just has faded into obscurity now, because there wasn't that interaction, or there wasn't that same drive that we have now. I mean, even before there was a whole server dedicated to it, you know, people were still throwing around ideas, wanting to throw their hat in the ring. You know, obviously there were reviews going around of everything. I know that a lot of people do want to be featured on Gacha Review because I do get requests from time to time. So yeah, I'm sure that all of that together, you know, it was the people. We made sure that Eli continued right when she thought the game was up, or at least that's my supposition right now. Basically, you know, that's just a theory and all that. And if that's the case, that's kind of beautiful, because I feel like that's, especially after going to film school, Eli has definitely brought her A game in terms of the new content now, and seems to be in a very happy place regarding said content to begin with, rather than looking back at it and being mostly unsatisfied, as was the case with Jazz Pops. And it is something that is good to do, by the way, to go back and look at your old stuff, and, you know, if you're unsatisfied with what you used to do, it's usually because you're doing better now, and that's a sign of not only humility but also of evolution. So you're not just thinking, oh, you know, everything I do is the best, and, you know, there's no improvements to be made, and if it doesn't do well, that's you know, the audience's fault and not mine, and that kind of stuff. So yeah. I did mention on stream that there's a video by another YouTuber that I've watched, where the final conclusion is, you know, that most artists hate what they've made by the time they publish it, and that's the good thing. I wouldn't go as far as to say that you should actively look to hate the work that you've done, because there is another extreme to the idea of not caring at all once it's submitted, once it's published and everything. The other extreme, of course, is the side of perfectionism that doesn't let you release anything unless it is absolutely perfect. And then by the time that you think of that, there's an improvement, you have a different idea, you want to restructure it again, and you end up in an endless cycle, basically. You know, a cycle just made, if you will. So yeah, I would say to anyone to strive to be somewhere in the middle of that. Be happy with what you can do in the moment. Remember that there is always a way to get better. You know, my classic saying of no art is beyond criticism. That's the whole reason I started Gacha Review. But in general, just think that, yeah, there's the fact that you've made something, the fact people are happy with it, basically go by the audience reaction as well. If people are happy with something, then that's honestly all you can really ask for, really. Because, you know, if you're creating something to be shared with people, then, you know, the people themselves, you know, expressing their enjoyment of the thing you've shared with them is one of the best feelings. I get the mentality of, oh, I don't care what other people think and such, but you know, when it comes to your art, you know, it's a good thing to, I think, to at least consider it. For example, I mean, you know, the Mutant episode that just came out, I know that there are a few glaring mistakes aside from the, you know, lack of that one scene that I mentioned earlier. There was also one scene that I deliberately took out that was originally going to be the payoff for one of the songs that Rain and Judas listened to, but that song was copyrighted, so Aiden convinced me not to go along with it, which maybe I will release that as a separate thing later on, like a bonus scene or something. But yeah, aside from that, you know, there were a couple of, you know, editing things that I couldn't do because my mouse didn't work. And I didn't have my usual resources and means. I tried to take as many files on an expansion drive as I could, but, you know, it wasn't a perfect thing. Maybe that footage was somewhere on the main computer and I just forgot where it was. I don't know. But no one noticed that. So, to some degree, it doesn't particularly matter until someone reviews it. As Bon has pointed out to me, the things that one expects to never get noticed when somebody's breaking it down and reacting to it suddenly can come to attention. So, you know, if that happens, then it happens. You know, I'm not too worried. I can definitely, you know, take it in stride like Eli did on the Jazz Pops review, and just be like, oh yeah, this is how things were. Or this is what's been going on. So, you know, if anyone wants me as a guest on any Mutant Girl reactions ever, obviously let me know, and I will do my best to not bore you to tears with incessant behind-the-scenes details unless you want me to do so. But yeah, as far as other things that have happened this week, when we talk about like some other Pops stuff as well, because yeah, Dream Pops particularly, that one was an interesting one because Tamsin has also taken over a series done by somebody else, in this case her sister, Call Me Isla, and it seems like that series has been deleted on Call Me Isla's channel, which I'm still not sure why that happened. Actually, we didn't get clarification because Tamsin herself wasn't there for the review. But yeah, you know, so it's a very extended one that was taken in a pretty different direction to the original, with a few hints like the color coding that hinted towards its origins. Potentially I could have done the same with Weather Pops in theory, but you know, I wanted to save because I wanted, you know, at least somewhat of the original vision to come through, because that's the reason that I wanted to continue that show to begin with, because I was really intrigued by the idea, the fact that the powers of the weather are so vast but fit together like a great theme. I think was the biggest strength out of that idea. And I could have made brand new Weather Pops as a result of that, but it's like it didn't really feel like I should, to be honest. I'll save that for if I ever eventually get round to making parody Pops. And yeah, not a bad catch-up week, I think, in terms of getting back into the swing of YouTube things. I didn't even get to talk about the other thing I've been doing behind the scenes, which is I went to London a couple of days ago to renew my passport. That was an interesting solo trip, basically, with a few directions on the trains, courtesy of my dad, who is a travel expert, at least relatively speaking. Not that, you know, navigating an underground train system is, you know, any foreign concept to me. To anyone who knows what I was like back in Spain, that is absolutely the case. But, you know, it's nice to know at least where you're going and such. And I got there like an hour early, so I just had a bit of a stroll. Honestly, I wish we'd actually arranged for the passport renewal date to have been today, so I could have done Walking Wednesday in London, because that particular area was actually... It's interesting because London can be both ugly and beautiful at the same time in a very fascinating way that can only really be captured by visualizing it. So, you know, physically capturing it, like on here, for example. So yeah, I should have thought of that, because it was a 1 week thing, and I was not planning to travel anywhere this week as far as, you know, internationally goes. So I feel like it would have been all right. That being said, I got my renewed passport today, because it was the not the fastest delivery service. That would have been like I think it was like a 24-hour thing or something, and that was that would have been extreme. But hey, 48 hours in between like a 1 week deal is not bad, I would say. The only tedious part of the whole process was the fact that in the actual room itself they give you a ticket, and you know they have to call out, you know, ticket number 1856 or something like that to booth number 6 or something like that. As well, there's like old text-to-speeches, so it doesn't quite sound human, which I think is, you know, somewhat endearing in this day and age. But yeah, but the tedious part was just basically, you know, waiting there, and I was just really hoping, because there were a few noisy or crying children that were there, so, you know, I wanted to make sure that I just heard my ticket properly over the top of the speaker. I then realized that there was actually a screen that was not too far away from me that actually displayed the ticket numbers and where they were going after they'd been said, in case anyone missed it. And I only figured that out after they called my number and I was already going to the ticket booth, so that would have been nice to clock earlier. But hey, you know, it was done. The meeting took about 10 minutes. They gave you like a time to be there. They said don't be there earlier than 10 minutes. And then the queue was actually too long anyway, so I ended up having the meeting late by their own system. And I was early by an hour, so I just, you know, got some food before that and such. So yeah, apart from that, everything ran quite smoothly. According to my dad, the train that I got on the way there was uncharacteristically empty. Potentially because it was an off-peak time or something, which I'm not really sure about, because I don't know which hours are peak hours and aren't. I forgot to look that up. Because technically speaking, it's cheaper tickets if you do that. But oh well. You win some, you lose some, I suppose, and not like it particularly matter, because you can have an any day ticket and just, you know, be fine with it. I think I still have my my onward tickets, my outward ticket. I mean, don't know why that let me keep that one and not the return one, which got swallowed up as soon as I came back. But there you go. One of those things, I guess. But yeah, that was the that was the non-YouTube side of this week, because, you know, having a normal mundane week, it's never really going to happen, and also because it's been so hot recently, not right this second because it's a little bit later in the day, but it's been so hot recently that it's honestly better to be out and about sometimes when one can. Other times, you know, you're there in the day preparing for an intro for your for one-shots for a D&D session that end up being far crazier than you even imagined, because it was supposed to be a chill session beforehand. Nothing to do with what up going down. But hey, you know, I guess that's it's not girls' night until someone is almost exploding, I suppose. Why not? So yeah, I reckon maybe we'll check that one out. If you want to stay back, let's stay for the lore details on that one that we did yesterday on the Butter Bunch. That's towards the end. But hey, you know, it was definitely a scarier ordeal than intended, but a very fun one. As for when we're going to do season 2 of Missions of Occulta, apparently Ghosty's preparing something for that, so I guess we'll keep you posted until then, and we'll see what goes on. But yeah, combination of D&D and getting up early to make sure I was there to receive the package with a new passport. Not the ideal combination, but hey, you know, it's all worked out now. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and head back and enjoy the lower temperatures in my southward oriented room. So there you have it. We'll see what happens tonight. Next review is something that's going to be a little bit something we'll probably enjoy for the proper reasons, not Pops related, but still superhero related. So, you know, stay tuned for that if you like the theme that's been going on thus far. And with that, please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters, and subscribe if not done so already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.